What's the tea, y'all? We are talking about the Real Housewives of Atlanta season, whatever the heck it is, episode 2. I basically missed like the first 2-3 minutes because I was trying to get my Xfinity stream to work. Seems like we picked up from Ross's party last week. And basically, we walk into it and Sheree's having a conversation with Kenya and Candy, and she's basically like, well, I was just chopping it up, and it seems like the girls are chatting about Martell or whatever. So we're back into this mess, child. So basically, excuse me while I get comfortable. Candy jumps into it. She's like, okay, well, yeah, girl, so like, how do you feel about the fact that, he was in Kenya's DMs? So to me, it felt like that was it was like a kiki moment, but at the end of the day, like, obviously tea was being spilled. They was downloading Sheree. Sheree was going to know what the heck was going on with her man in his DM. But I felt like it was in the spirit of almost like kiki. Like, it really just didn't seem that serious to me. Now, I will say, obviously, if somebody comes to you and they're like, well, your man was in my DMs, and it's like, okay, well, let's get to the bottom of it. But it didn't feel like this big ambush thing that it feels like they got into later, but we'll get there. Kenya pulls up the DM. We already know from last week that there's really no DM to show. And at some point, like, Martell gets over there, and to me, he did already seem like he was kind of fired up, or like kind of like what the hell was going on type of thing. Like, he already seemed like he was being a little catty with Kenya, in my opinion. To his credit, though, like, I mean, if it seems like you in a function, like I was just saying, and maybe like people are kind of talking about you, or like there's some weird stuff going on, they bringing up something weird, you probably gonna have the same type of mood too. But it just seemed like he was a little turned up prematurely. But it's probably easy for me to say that because I wasn't in the situation. So fine. But he walks over and it all happened so fast. Like, it felt like, Kenya was like, well, this is it, but this is not it because the DM wasn't there. And then he's like going off and he's like, I'm not dealing with this. But then it seems like he comes back and he's like, well, I'll show you my phone too. But it seemed like he had checked out his phone in the back with his homeboy first or whoever before he came to the forefront and was like, here, let me show you. Like, it was just a lot going on. At the end of the day, because I couldn't even get into the scene 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of it. It was all over the place. At the end of the day, the way that I feel about that was, yes, it was messy for that to have been brought up in a party. Because at the end of the day, we have to function. We're trying to have a good time. This is the first cast event. So it's like, girl, we just started filming the season. Like, what's going on? And the girls are trying it. The girls are girling. So I get that. Martell, I'm with you. However, Sheree, for starters, always feels like she'll just like blindly defend a man. Like, I don't know. Like, it's something about Sheree that just feels like if somebody brings something to her about her man, quite immediately she's going to be turned up against that person and not against the man. Or at least even trying to inquire. Like, even when they brought it up, even when Mayetta brought it up last episode, and was just like, so we heard some stuff about Montel. Again, I've already said, like, I can get how that can be weird. But if somebody comes up to me in a party and like, I done heard something about your man, I don't care where we're at. I don't even care. I don't care if we at the Renaissance World Tour. Well, don't do it while she's performing. But like, if it's beforehand and we're in the moment and you feel like you heard something, okay, what's going on? Let me know. Da, da, da. But even when Mayetta did that, it already felt like Sheree was on defense mode behind this man that allegedly already has a history of cheating. So it's kind of like, I feel like I want to know that. So it felt like she was already in that spirit. And then now they're bringing it to her again. And it just already felt like she was on the defense. More of a like, let me prove y'all wrong than actually see what y'all are saying. So I personally feel like that's kind of where it was going wrong. Like, the spirit was already a little bit off on the receiving end. I can understand why. But I can also understand why not. Like, girl, listen to the T. Like, obviously there's T here, and obviously he is T. That, like, it's Martell, babe. So, I would listen. But whatever. It feels like when he came over, I think he naturally was going to be on the defensive, and I do think that he was being a little bit aggressive. If we're going to be honest, that's the way that I feel. Like, I understand not wanting to label people as aggressive. I totally get that. But in that moment, he was being aggressive. Like, I don't, nobody's saying he's an aggressive person by nature, but in that was an aggressive moment. So it feels like he was rightfully so defending himself. Sure, great. But he was doing it in a manner where it was like, he was super defensive. And I feel like he was feeding out the energy of Sheree being super defensive. Like, it just gave so much defense, instead of just like, before he even came over there, because I feel like Sheree was the one to tell him to come over there. Before he even came over there, I feel like I would have got the information if I was Sheree and then went on to him. But immediately for me, what I feel like I saw was like Sheree being like, nah, girl, like, whatever, Martell, come see this, girl. Like, it just, yeah. So I think it escalated from there. I think he was aggressive. I don't feel any type of way about Kenya approaching him after the fact that he cursed at her.
You got out your seat. You should have got out your damn seat.
Maybe if I rewatched it and went into it some more, which I'm totally open to do, but I didn't feel any type of way about that, to be honest. I feel like he had already disrespected her, so it just kind of was like, I'm not saying it was a great situation, but I don't feel any type of way about it. In that moment, it was already going to be a bad situation. Sheree was on defense from jump. Martell was on defense, which was out of the blue, but it feels like he probably came there on defense. I don't know. It was all happening just so fast. But for me, it feels like they were being defensive. Overly defensive. And I think that's what made the situation escalate. It just wasn't like a combative situation when they were talking to her about it. We skipped down to the episode to Candy having, I guess, like lunch or dinner with Sonya, which was great. I love seeing like Sonya out the house. If y'all watched my previous video, that's what I've been begging for. Like, I'm tired of seeing her filming in that house, so that was great. Honestly, like them talking about the fact that they went to Disney, I thought that was cool. Showing that they hang out outside of the show, but what I really wanted to get to was the fact that Candy had mentioned that she felt some type of way because basically Sonya didn't say anything about Courtney, like feeling some type of way about her at the party. So she's like, I came to your party. This girl is there feeling some type of way about me because you facilitated the conversation, but you didn't give me like a heads up. And then it feels like, we're getting some more context on why Candy might feel that way because she's like, well, girl, we was hanging out when we weren't filming. We went to Disney World with the kids and the family and blah, 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 blah. So, why didn't you give me a heads up? So I was like, okay, fair, boom, whatever. That's the conversation I'm waiting for. So when they finally get there, it was interesting to see the way that Sonya relayed the message from Courtney. It felt like it was intentionally partially remembered. Like, it just felt like she was just trying to she was just skipping around parts, and then I feel like Candy was asking the right questions. I honestly hadn't even thought of those questions, so I appreciate her for that. She was just like, okay, so what happened? Like, what was the girl talking about? Like, what's up with Courtney? And she's just like, well, yeah, Courtney came in and, she had a lot to say. And it's like, okay, I'm like, well, we didn't really see all of that. And that's a question that I have too. Like, why doesn't production put everything on the show? Like, why wouldn't they put that portion of Courtney calling Candy ghetto or her fan base ghetto or however she's gonna explain it? Why didn't they put that on the show if it was gonna be a part of the next episode? Like, I don't understand why they do that. It seems like now when we get these episodes, it'd be so many flashbacks to like stuff that we could have seen. It's not like we weren't there. Like, we were there when they were having that conversation at Sheree's house, but y'all just didn't want to show us that part. I thought that was unnecessary, but okay. And I thought that would have been some tea for the episode. Like, oh, but whatever. She tells Candy this. The way that I interpreted it was that she was calling Candy ghetto. But I'm open to other interpretations. Like, if she was trying to say Candy's fans are ghetto, okay, but I feel like even if you call somebody's fans ghetto, that's almost kind of like an indication that they're ghetto as well. So I don't really understand the difference, but I'm still open. Candy obviously asked the right question again after that happened. And she's like, oh, well, when she said that, what did you say? And it just felt like Sonya was stuttering. Just stuttering. Like, she had nothing to say. And then it felt like, because this is how long it took, it felt like she remembered. So she's sitting there in a moment with Candy, and she remembered exactly what was said, and she remembered exactly how she responded. But then it felt like she came back and intentionally talked around it. And then production was showing us the background, so it was just all making sense. And Candy predicted it. She was literally like, "Girl, I know he was over there with you. Been hanging with the Marlows and the Charades, Rose Clips." She's cracking up, and it's like, but then you get her talking to Candy, and she's like, "Well, I'm pretty sure." What did she say? She's like, I'm sure." I said, "Are you sure? Do you know, or are you sure? What are you saying? Like, what's going on?" Sonya, I was trying to. I was trying to work with Sonya. I like Sonya. I think that she is a nice lady, but I think that she's flip flopping. And Drew's back. It seemed to match up with the story last week that she was out for like a family reason, even though there was like tea that she was out for like contract reasons, but maybe two things can be true. I don't know. They get into the story about her and her dad, and I thought that that was sweet. And, obviously, like, it's hard watching your parents get old and also go through health issues. So that was a nice story to get for Drew. Nice background to get for Drew. Nice context to get for Drew about her family. It's just weird to watch her and Ralph interact because it just never feels genuine. And I feel like when I'm watching, I'm always like, do y'all get along? Like, do y'all like each other? Like, I feel like that's what I'm always thinking, especially knowing what's to come. So it's just hard to watch their scenes. They then go to Sonya kind of talking about, like, because she's out with Candy, and she goes to talk about basically her family. I wasn't really following. Like, but she was talking about the fact that her family, obviously all nine of them live in Atlanta in her house together. But what it sounded like she was saying to me was that nobody wanted to be there anymore. And she keeps like stressing this plan that, like, oh, they were gonna all live together for 2 years, and then 1 or 2 years or whatever, and then after that see what happens. But she's like, it's only been 1 year, like, what's going on? And she's like, everybody just wants to leave. And then she's also like, Ross is never here either, because I guess he works. I forgot where else he works when he's working. I just started to think, I don't even know what she's talking about when she's explaining this dilemma. I feel like it might break the fourth wall for her to really say what it is, because how I'm feeling is she is in Atlanta for the show. Is how I feel, which would, I guess, would be understandable because that's work. So she's in Atlanta for the show, and I think that she wants to have her entire family there in Atlanta for the show because she thinks that that's gonna be her thing, like, and it's gonna add value and is gonna be good for the show. That's what I'm picking up because I'm just a little bit confused as to why she keeps stressing to have her whole family in Atlanta living in that house for 2 years. Like, what is the end goal? Like, what are we trying to do? I may be missing something, but it's not clear to me. And the way that I interpreted it was that she wanted them there for the show, and it feels like they ain't really trying to do that. They're trying to go do something else. So I'm confused about that story. But yeah. So then we get to Candy at Blaze with Todd, and this was I don't know. This scene feels like it was intended to be about the shooting, I guess. I mean, they talked about the fact that like business has slowed down because of the area and because of COVID. But then they also talked about changing the menu, and they also talked about other restaurants. And then her cousin randomly popped up who had been injured at the incident that happened at Blaze, which was like, it was all in the blogs, it was all over the internet, it was all on it was everywhere. So I didn't really feel like that was a secret. But it felt weird to me when the producer came out and they're like, so we're not going to talk about the elephant in the room. And then people on Twitter were kind of like, yeah, like, why are we not talking about that? And making it a thing. Like, oh, here's Candy not sharing a thing again. And I wasn't really getting that. Like, the whole thing was weird for me. Like, first of all, was production really wanting y'all to, like, set up this whole scene at Blaze to talk about this one incident? Like, I just don't understand if that's what they were doing. I don't understand what that was gonna do for the show or for like Candy's story or like, well, for whatever. Like, I don't really understand what was the reason? Like, why would we need to do that? Like, okay, everybody knows about that though. And then even if they talk about it more, what more can they really say? about it. Like, we know what happened, unfortunately. Then what? Like, what does that have to do with anything? So I don't really understand why there was a push to have that scene. Because, like, her cousin kind of came in just to come in. Like, they didn't give any context as to why he was there. He just kind of popped in. So it's just like, what is this scene for? Then we get to Kenya and her, I guess it's the new friend of the show, Akila. I hope I'm saying that right. I don't remember. But I think it's Akila. I'm happy to see this. I don't know if we've ever, and I'm pretty sure we haven't, seen like Kenya with like a friend situation. Or was Claudia? I don't know. I don't know. But I feel like we haven't seen Kenya with a friend situation. If we have, I don't remember. Sorry. But I'm happy to see like Kenya with a friend on the show or somebody that she just has something outside of the group with. They don't really mention her much though. So is she even a friend on the show or was she just, I don't know. It seems like they gave her a lot of attention as if she was going to be a future part of the show or something like that. So I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But she was cool. So then Sheree and Sonya go out for dinner. Clearly, like, Sonya's going to be like the meal girl, I guess. Like, the one to go out for the lunches and the dinners. And it makes sense because, like, I said this in my last video. Like, they filmed with Sonya so much last season just for, like, random, like, filler things. Like, it just, things that didn't make sense. So I guess, like, she's going to be the one to go out for lunch and dinner dates with everybody and fill in the gaps of the story, I guess. So she goes out with Sheree. They're talking about the party again. And basically, like, they immediately start going in on Kenya, which is to be expected because they kind of did that last season. That was their thing. And they're immediately talking about this aggressive thing. To me, it's a reach. Like, I feel like because of the way that Kenya is and the way that she's come across before and the way that they try to paint her, like, they want her to seem like she's just dramatic and like what she's saying doesn't have any like merit. And I just don't agree with that. Like, I do think that he was being aggressive in that situation. So I don't know why they're trying to make it a big thing. I hope it doesn't become a bigger thing. But it was clearly their point of Kiki. Oh, but did y'all also clock when she came in and Sheree basically came in and she's like, girl, what's been going on? And Sheree was like, oh, girl, busy. It just be feeling like Sheree just be saying stuff sometimes. Like, what are you busy doing? Let's have a conversation. Like, what you busy doing? Like, I didn't understand that. Then at the end, we do get Sheree doing something, so that was helpful. She was like doing the packaging for She by Sheree or whatever. But whatever, Kenya comes in. That's the point of this scene, not She by Sheree. Kenya comes in for them to do their little powwow about what happened at dinner. This episode for me, it's like it wanted to be good and it wasn't bad, but it just was like, I don't know. I just felt like we was talking about stuff that just really didn't matter. Like the thing at the party just really did not strike me like that. But they're talking about that again, just a different fight. It's kind of like three fights developed off one dinner. I mean, off of one party at the beginning of the season. Like, is that I? But yeah, so that happens. They're basically talking about that, of course. And they just kind of get into this back and forth about the aggressive thing. And like I already said, like I do agree, like you don't want to put the aggressive like narrative out there, but I think that he was being aggressive in that moment. And I think that's simply what Kenya was saying. I don't think it was supposed to be anything bigger than that. I think that it was a good conversation in a weird way. They obviously didn't come to a resolve, but I think that they both were communicating well, and I think that they were both making valid points, and I think that they were being mature about it. So I think that they both made points, and they both said what they had to say about it. At the end of the day, I understand what they're saying. I understand Sheree feeling like Kenya should not have gotten up. I understand that. I didn't have an issue with it, but I understand her feeling that type of way. I think she articulated it well. Now I understand Kenya saying, well, but he was being aggressive. So, I don't know. But I liked that. That was my favorite part of the episode because that was good dialogue. They were being clear. They were being direct. And they both had their points, and it was what it was. That part I'll take. Everything else, it was what it was. It wasn't a bad episode, but it was an episode. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. Like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.